Okay. May 10th.
Happy Mother's Day to
Happy
everybody.
Mother's Day. Sure is.
Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And Mother God.
Mm-hmm. There's a Mother God. Yep. Mm-hmm. Asna.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Beautiful day.
Our real mama. Our true mama. There's this lady, when I was getting your flower this morning, there's this lady that she told me that she was like, because I was had the flower in the card. She had just a little bit, few things, but I was like, no, like it's Mother's Day, it's your day, She was like an older lady. Like not older, but she's probably like 50s, maybe 40s, 50s, and yeah, and she didn't have much anyway. It didn't matter how much she would have had, I still would have let her, because I mean, yeah, it's Mother's Day, So.
Acts of kindness.
Mm-hmm. That's what she was trying to do, but it's her day.
That's sweet, baby.
But yep. Great day. Another week down. Hopefully this week we'll find a place. Having a hard time, man. Like I'm not having no luck because my credit's not that good, and then of course my background, But so yeah, you're gonna have to get on some today and fill some applications out online. It's put down my number as your number, so like they call me while you're at work, and then so I have to be on the lease. I don't want to do it to where we sneak me around because that's just a hassle and complicated, and it could get us all kicked out and then the fuck. So let's just not try to even go that route. But we'll be able to find a place where I will be able to get in there. Like I know there's a place out there somewhere around here, but we just gotta find it. And so yeah, but yeah, just fill a couple online today would be great. Okay. All right, Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you, Lord, just for a wonderful day today and Mother's Day. I just pray that all the mothers out there that don't have their children this year, or for everyone that doesn't have their mother this year, Lord, that you just comfort their hearts, Lord, that you just soothe their souls, that you just bring a miracle or blessing in their lives today, Lord. And just make today an awesome day again for them. I just praise you, Lord, so much. Thank you, and I just want to pray for anyone that's just struggling in general, Lord, that you just show up and show out in their lives, Father. In Jesus Christ, holy and heavenly name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
There we go.
Oh. Be careful to your coffee. I don't know how to go.
Oh yeah, no, it's good. Thank you.
It's too cooking. You tried it already?
Mm-hmm.
It's not too hot?
Mm-hmm.
Not hot enough?
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
You know what? Me and Babe went and got my nails done yesterday. They're freaking awesome color, glitter.
Mm-hmm.
The way he did them, I can do my own nails.
Oh yeah.
Watch this. It's awesome. I'm gonna show you. Whenever these come off, I'm gonna get the kit.
Mm-hmm.
So easy the way he did it. It was a new way to do it now.
And so basically you watched and you're watching, so
I watched everything.
So you learn how to do it. That's
yeah,
what's
it's
up.
very, very easy. I mean, my aunt ran around hair and nail salon my whole life.
So
I know how to lay the product down, but he didn't even lay the product down. It was really weird how he did it. It was really cool though. It was really simple. I can do my own fingernails. I might need your help just a little bit.
Yeah, I got you.
Just because I'm not doing my left hand, but
yeah,
I can get there.
Yeah.
Me too. Worship in spirit and in truth. The time will come, however, indeed, it is already here, when the true, genuine worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth reality, for the Father is seeking just such people as these, as his worshipers. John 4:23. According to today's scripture, God is seeking true, genuine worshipers who really worship him with all their hearts. I've always been a bit saddened by the fact that God has to seek true worshipers. I think there should be an abundance of them, and that we should dedicate ourselves to being the kind of worshipers God desires. But I find it interesting that he does not want just anybody to worship him. He wants true and genuine worshipers. He is not looking for people who will worship him out of fear or obligation, or even merely in their time of personal need, but out of loving relationship. True, sincere worship comes out of the heart and out of intimacy with God. It is much more than learned behavior or repeating certain rituals. Walking into a building called a church and kneeling at a certain time, standing at other times, and repeating certain phrases can be worship if these activities come from our hearts. But they are nothing if they are only memorized words and actions that are not sincere. For worship to be genuine and sincere, truly, we must have our heart connection and focus our attention on God when we are praying on worshiping Him. We would be better off to say less and mean it more than to say more and mean it less. Love God today. Lord, help me to be genuine and sincere each time I approach you.
It's a good one. That's a really good one. Especially how, not to, worship out of fear, for any other reason other than love, like that's what's up. I really feel like the word fear should be deleted from the Bible. I really do. I am the foundation and focus of your life. I am a firm foundation, one that will not be shaken. Before you knew me as Savior, you had nothing to build your life upon. Every time you tried to create something meaningful, it would eventually collapse. Like a house of cards, without me, everything is ultimately meaningless. Ever since I became your Savior, you have been building on the rock of my presence. Some of the things you've worked on flourished, and others have not. But you always have a firm place to stand on the foundation that I've provided for you. The key to steadiness in your life is to set me always before you. When you make me your focus, you can walk steadily along your life path. Many distractions will be for your attention along the way, but I am the guide who is continually before you. So keep looking ahead to me. See me beckoning you on, step by step, all the way to heaven. Meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Escalades 1:2. The Lord lives, blessed by the rock. Let God be exalted, the rock of my salvation. 2 Samuel 22:47. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. Psalm 40 verse 2. I have set the Lord always before me because he is at my right hand. I will not be shaken. Psalm 16:8. So, I mean, yeah, I guess in a sense, a life without something higher than yourself, can be meaningless. But I mean, really though, it's not. As you see life as it's a big lesson. You're coming here to learn. How to love and how to have relationships and how to connect with people. Then that's what and there's going to be people that screw you over, break your heart, whatever, and you can't let that stop you from giving someone else that hasn't done you that way the chance. So we're in a big old school. So then, in the light of that, then nothing is meaningless. Everything matters. There's a purpose and point to it all. It all ties in together. And and that's with or without God. It don't matter. But now, in a career standpoint or in what you do with your life, you can add meaning to it. I feel like when you do what you do for the Lord, for sure, and it's not just about you, and it's about the people around you, then I feel like that can add some meaning for sure. But I don't think that we only had to have God the way we do because we got evil. Otherwise, we would probably just be us living in harmony, and it would be great. You know what I mean? But that's not the point of this life. We would have just stayed where we're at. You know what I mean? If it was like that, But yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Perfect. So I went to the 7-Eleven the other day with my son. Had to pick up his shoes to get him a little soapy, right?
Mhm.
And on the window, and it was written in, I don't know what they are. The gas station. I don't know, Pakistans. I don't know if they were, I think they're Pakistani, I think. And it said, God be with us all, or Jesus, it was talking about Jesus, be with us, right now, pretty much, and he had it written in texting or their
Mhm.
handwriting underneath it. It was
Mhm.
really cool, and I was like, "Let Jesus be with you."
Mhm.
It was just really cool. Had it written on their window.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right before you walk in.
That's what's up.
They're talking with the code 419 pretty much.
Mhm.
And it was just like, but I don't understand why people do that whenever we have something like this happen. Why not have that on there all the time?
I know. It's like same thing with 9/11. You know what I mean? Like,
Why don't you have, why isn't God and Jesus in this much of depth and,
when things are good.
Yeah.
It needs to be when things are good as well.
Because that's the reason things are going good, I mean,
Mhm.
us humans don't make everything happen,
Right. And okay, with that right there, what was I gonna say?
Talking about the 9/11 and.
Well, no, I know. I was gonna say too. I was gonna say one thing before that, and then I was gonna say something to that too. But I was gonna say with the kid this morning. When I went to go get the flower for you, there was like, I think it's because of what's going on right now, but like there was like 5 dudes, all showed up basically at the same time, to get stuff for their mothers or wives or grandmamas, and I just feel like, like it wouldn't have been like that any other time, I don't ever remember seeing, anytime I've ever done anything like that for any kind of holiday, or a holiday like this, I just haven't seen, and I just feel like, that's just part of people that, are starting to wake up and care and care. And
they don't have an excuse to forget because
it's just everyone's celebrating. It's a holiday, it's a national holiday, like it's your damn mom's day, like.
But there's a lot of guys out there and a lot of women who forget Mother's Day, Father's Day, or Valentine's Day, people's birthdays.
Mm-hmm.
I see people been married for years and literally be like, "Oh shit, it's their birthday today." Be like, "How did you not?
I know.
How do you not?"
It's not mindful of those things, but those little things matter. They do matter, But I feel like what's going on right now, and being at home, is causing people to really look within themselves, and just figure out their place in this world, and that, what's going on is crazy, but there's a lot of love here too, and that, like, we see the direction things are going, it may not be that much more time left, and this may be the last time you have to express that love, And it was just nice to see, that many dudes, all about my age, showing up to get stuff for their loved ones. It was really cool. Very cool. It's your turn, baby.
May 10th. Majestic approval. Oh God, I'd love to keep the beauty of this day forever and forever. The sky incredible blue, new leaves shining, flowers swaying in the gentle breeze. Birds with changeful wheels darting here and there. The lake a sparkling jewel, surrounded by spicy pines, and you looking down at your handiwork with majestic approval. The heavens tell of the glory of God. The skies display His marvelous craftsmanship. This is one of that's the one I was saying, banana.
Oh, that one right there? Oh, right here, let me see. Stay there, Lord. Please get me off this emotional elevator which carries me so swiftly from the basement of despair to the 10th floor of exhilaration and down to the basement again. I'm hoarse, from shouting, my fists are blue from pounding. I'm suffocating in this dark, windowless box. Turn and look, your dear child. The door's wide open. Walk straight into my waiting arms and stay there. Come, all you who are thirsty. Come to the waters, and you who have no money, come buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without cost. Why spend money on what is not bread, and you labor on what does not satisfy? Listen to me, and eat what is good, and your soul will be delighted with the riches of fare. Isaiah 55, 1-2. Yeah, for sure. I'll read it today.
I mean, that's just when like when she's in the boat,
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Something manipulation all on. I don't know how she'll react to it.
No, I think she'll react good to it for sure. She'll like it. And let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Hebrews 10:24. Some people blame our lack of genuine community on the invention of the air conditioner. Before AC, people would sit on their front porches in the evenings and try to catch a breeze to cool off. They would wave at neighbors and visit with the ones who stopped to chat over a glass of lemonade. With air conditioning installed, people can stay inside and don't have to interact with their neighbors. Attaching garages to our houses didn't help either. Instead of walking from our driveways or detached garages and exchanging greetings with neighbors along the way, we pull in, shut the door, and we're inside our house. Fences, gated communities, answering machines, and caller ID reinforce this notion that we want to be left alone. We don't have to interact with anyone, so we don't. Now people interact online and through social media and really never have to interact. You can even shop online, but Jesus always had time for other people. He talked to them, fed them, healed them, and forgave them. He often met physical needs in order to address spiritual needs. If you're too busy even to interact with the people around us, let alone engage with their struggles, then we're not following Christ's example, and we're also missing out on the blessing of loving and serving one another. Today, take the time to stop, listen, and walk with someone you see every day, but rarely slow down to get to know. Power lift. Lord, it's easy to make excuses about why I don't engage with more people in my life today. But you remind me to show your love to everyone I meet. Give me wisdom to know when to interrupt my schedule in order to bless those around me. That's what's up. I like that one. That's really good. I like that.
I need to get my vape on my sister today. Shit ass. She knew what she was doing. Jeez. Oh yeah. Wish I could buy one since I threw yours away, Jesse. Oh, let me get yours. Oh, you left your vape. Let's see what she was doing.
Shut up.
Maybe not. What was it? It was subconscious.
So yeah, subconsciously.
She was subconsciously doing it. Not even realizing it. That's pretty
Shut up.
One day at a time. I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Romans 12:1. Most of us don't seek help until we realize that something is out of control in our lives. Sometimes another person realizes it for us. But either way, we come looking for help in an area that obviously needs attention. After we've been in recovery for a while, however, it becomes clear that flaws in our character may have been what got us into big trouble in the first place. If we don't deal with them, they will keep us from living a life fully committed to Christ. The bad news is that we all have these character flaws. No one is perfect. Maybe we are people pleasers, or we have anger issues. We might feel that we have to spend money to feel good about ourselves, or we use food to stuff our emotions. We may have control issues. Whatever the case, these character flaws are always at the root of our big problems. It is important to acknowledge these character flaws and offer them to God. We start with the big issue, the one causing us the most pain, and then we begin working on all the smaller areas. God reveals to us. The process works because God is in it. All we need to do is acknowledge the need for change, offer ourselves to Him, and then work alongside Him while He works those things out in our lives. Prayer. Thank you, Lord, for helping me see the flaws behind my failings. With your help, I will face them one day at a time. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, amen, amen. Okay, so I was watching this video yesterday, and it was about like reptilians and all the and the Anunnaki and all
He
this.
said, I knew it.
But so you know, and so the reptilians, you know, what are they? They're basically dinosaurs, right? And so that was the first civilization. You know, it was the first, you know, that was here. And dinosaurs were here first, right? And it's really that crazy to believe, to think, you know, that, you know, what we find bones in the ground was like their pets, so to say, you know, their animals, you know, so to say. And then there was an actual race, you know, of reptilians, right? You know, that are humanoid. You know, I don't think that's crazy at all. You know, and it's not. You know, and So, but now but they weren't going to spiritually advance, right? Because they won't let go of their power, their greed, and their control. Okay, and so they can't ascend, and so with that being said, that's why they're still here. This is their planet. They were asked to leave, but and they wouldn't leave. Some of them did. They're not all bad. Okay, they're not all bad, but um, uh, so the ones that didn't leave went underground, and they weren't allowed to reveal themselves to humans, right? And so they created this technology, to be able to shapeshift, okay, and or possess, and then
I want to come in here with Dana and we would give
can we
you
finish our thing
a
real
gift.
quick, Mom?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
It's okay.
I really did not know. Oh my God.
It's okay. It's okay.
Um,
It's okay.
but yeah. So they shapeshift, and it's like, if you ever seen that Justin Bieber video, and people are like, oh, whatever, that ain't real. But I mean, it's happened not just with him, with many other actors and actresses or singers or whatever, and so, but then so they wiped them out, right? They wiped civilization out, because and it didn't kill them. Like, it wasn't. It was just so that way they had to destroy all those predatory animals, because so that way they can give rise to their new experiment, right, which was us, right? But we are a combination of a lot of these things, right? Where we got Anunnaki DNA, we got reptilian DNA, we got Palladian DNA, and we just learned recently that there's only a small percent of our DNA we actually access, right? And the rest of it they call it junk DNA, but so a lot of us, the majority of us, that's the only DNA part of our DNA that we access, is the reptilian part of our DNA, and that's where the manifestation of control, greed, or power in any sense, manipulation in any sense of the form, that's where it comes from. And so, if you say affirmations or pray, to God, that you have to be able to accept the dark part of yourself, though. Okay, it's not bad that you have that at all. It's the fight or flight. It's very beneficial. There's a reason why we have it, and it's not a bad thing. But you just don't want it to be the only thing you access. And whenever that's being accessed, that becomes the thing that it doesn't allow the other ones to be accessed, because the other ones are more in harmony and sovereignty, right? And that per DNA is where maybe the evil is, right? And so, you pray or say affirmations, for God to disengage or whatever, to disengage your reptilian DNA from the rest of your DNA, so you can walk in the sovereignty that you're meant to walk in, and access the DNA that you have access to, so you can manifest the things that you need to manifest in your life, the love, the harmony, the tranquility, all the good things. And it'd be, I think that's very good to do. And I was very appreciative for that person putting that out there, with her experiences, and what she's come to learn. Because a lot of what she knew, I already knew. I came into some information, a while back, all on my own, without anyone having to tell me this stuff, so I know it's lined up with truth. You don't gotta believe it, but if you just want to walk in more of your God-given power, though, what's it gonna hurt? It ain't gonna hurt nothing, and if anything, if it is true, if it is right, then you're empowered even more, so that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, and then my turn again.
So.
Okay, take the initiative. Add to your faith virtue. 2 Peter 1:5. Add means that we have to do something. We are in danger of forgetting that we cannot do what God does, and that God will not do what we can do. We cannot save nor sanctify ourselves. God does that. But God will not give us good habits or character, and He will not force us to walk correctly before Him. We have to do all that ourselves. We must work out our own salvation. Ooh, I love that. I love that. Which God has worked in us. Philippians 2:12. Add means that we must get into the habit of doing things, and in the initial stages that is difficult. To take the initiative is to make a beginning, to instruct yourself in the way you must go. Beware of the tendency to ask the way when you know it perfectly well. Take the initiative. Stop hesitating. Take the first step. Be determined to act immediately in faith on what God says to you when He speaks, and never reconsider or change your initial decisions. If you hesitate when God tells you to do something, you are being careless, spurning the grace on which you stand. Take the initiative yourself. Make a decision of your will right now and make it impossible to go back. Burn your bridges behind you, saying, I will write that letter or I will pay that debt, and then do it. Make it irrevocable. We have to get into the habit of carefully listening to God about everything, forming the habit of finding out what He says and heeding it. If, when a crisis comes, we instinctively turn to God, we will know that the habits have been formed in us. We have to take the initiative where we are, not where we have not yet been. That's really good. I like that a lot. It's real good. Because like I think that was a misconception that I had, and I really think it's a flaw in the system, of how, yes, God can do miracles and He can grant somebody that spiritual growth that they need in an instant, right? But really, though, in reality, that's really not how it happens, though. Like, a person needs to get in and make the right changes, and the right lifestyle moves, to really be able to, walk in the power that God, has made available to us, and just thinking that, oh, okay, well, I love God, I know about God, I want a better life, so I give my heart, or I ask Him in my heart, and I give my life to Him, and then you expect it to be done for you, because really, if churches were more about, discipling us and getting us equipped and teaching us the things, that we needed to be able to walk with Christ, I feel like that's what should be the focus instead of just getting people saved, because that's great and all, but if you're not doing both, if you're not getting them saved and equipping them, then then they're not going to be on that firm foundation. They're not going to be, whenever trouble comes their way, they're just going to get blown down, So it happened with me, and I would go back out every single time. I'd go back to my old ways, and it never worked out for me, But God is good. He's faithful, and He just kept showing up to me, and finally, I was able to get to where I was just completely, in every way that I could, consciously, live for Him, or for His will, which and our will and His will is the same thing. When your heart's lined up with Him, and it's not just about you anymore, but you're thinking about Him and the people around you, then you are acting in God's will, because your will is His will. We got God inside of us, and whenever we feel inside of us that direction and that desire to do something, that's God's will, I don't know, but that's really good stuff. Okay, baby. That one's not ready today, remember?
I'm done.
You're done? Guard the inside. Above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Proverbs 4:23. Inward. If you're typical and you think of guarding your heart in terms of keeping things out, corruption, false ideas, temptations, all are to be held at arm's length, never to be allowed in the inner depths of your affections. But there's another side of this vigilance. We are to keep things in. In fact, if we can master that, the corruptions and temptations will often take care of themselves. Think about it. The things that can assail a heart from the outside are innumerable, far too overwhelming to manage. But the things we are told to keep within, the spirit of Jesus, the humility of gentleness, the servanthood and sacrifice, the worship and thankfulness, these are one spirit. While most religions tell us to avoid the bad, God tells us to embrace Him. We are better equipped to focus on His character than the enemy's devices. In fact, we are commanded to do so. Paul emphasizes this radical new discipleship. Live by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the sinful nature. Galatians 5:16. Nowhere are we told to live against the sinful nature and hope that the Spirit will show up. We are told to live by the Spirit and expect the sinful nature to have no power. I love that, man. That's awesome. We get confused about that often. Too many Christians guard the way into their hearts to keep things out. That may be appropriate at times, but try a different approach. Guard the way out. Stand at the inside of the gate and be careful about what may be leaving. Once in a while, we get a life-altering glimpse of true worship. By all means, keep it in. From time to time, we'll see a picture of true servanthood. Don't let that picture go. Occasionally, we are touched by a spirit of sacrifice, moved by a ministry, or convinced by a powerful word from the Lord. Hold on to these things. Treasuring the wellspring that God has birthed in your heart will leave little room for those corruptions you once obsessed over. And the wellspring is a much more pleasant preoccupation. And yeah, like, and that's awesome because yeah, whenever you have the things of the Spirit in your heart, and that's what you're walking in, then you can't have the opposite there at the same time. You can't embody, that at the same time, And so when that's your focus and that's what you try to do, and you walk in, then you don't even have to sit there and even think about keeping that stuff out. It's just naturally going to be that way. And then really though, like the dark parts of ourselves, the dark parts of this world, we're not supposed to resist it. In Jesus' teachings, if you read his other books, he says, do not resist evil. Not that evil is good or to do it, but that you don't resist it. You love on it. You love on it. You give it your love. You understand that we are all, we all have the right to live. We all have the miracle of breath. We are all able to breathe life into all of our lives matter. Whether it is another spirit or a person, and just because it's what perceives to be evil or bad doesn't mean that you should resist it or like you just send it your love. Understand that it's serving their God just like we're serving our God, and it's really all the same God. They just see it within themselves, and that God's not outside of them, and they have a hierarchy, and but it's really though all the same God. They just do it to serve themselves, and then there's the and then we love the loving aspect of God, the compassionate, all loving, forgiving God, and it's okay, it's very evident that we all have the equal access to God, but I know here though, like, we have our heavenly host here, right? We have our guides, our angels, our master teachers, around us all the time, and once you go dark, once you go service to self, you lose that, but you have another form of protection in this world, and I don't know the extent of their protection, but they even have their own, like, but that's okay, like if you're under a psychic attack or anything, like whenever you resist it, it comes at you harder. It starts to break you down. It drains your energy. But if you just let it be and just thank God for the experience and thank God for Him, for the and just love on the situation, love on the entity, send it your love and light, and just understand it's just you wrote it in your chart somewhere for unexpected things to happen, or for that particular instant to happen to teach you something, so and just love on it, understand it's an experience for growth, yeah, that's awesome. It's a really good one, really good thing to touch on, for sure.
I was just gonna read another one out of this.
Oh, you have another one of that? Or read another one? Yeah, okay, then.
Cautious contact. Let the world of Christ dwell in you richly. Colossians 3:16. We all have been given one great choice, how we still live our lives. We can live them our way, as Frank Sinatra was saying. Trouble is on our own. We lack the resources and understanding we need to avoid disaster. Most of us find that out the hard way. Frank Sinatra, my Nino loves him. He's a guitar player, Frank Sinatra.
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Or we can live
Or
our
a
lives
singer. Or a singer.
Yeah. According to society norms and expectations. That sounds good, but aligning ourselves with the naturally evil heart of men is also fraught with danger and disaster. There is another option, however, one that is sure to work in our favor. We can choose to align ourselves with God and live our lives His way. God instituted a plan for each of us long before we were born, and He has given us the gifts and insights we need to follow the plan successfully. He has guaranteed our success before we even start. To find God's will for our lives, we must spend time alone with Him. Even Jesus spent much time praying and listening for His Father's voice, so He could carry out the mission for which He was sent. He made conscious contact with God, and we must do the same. God must be more than a concept to us. Conscious contact with God begins in His Word, His love letter to us. In its pages, we find His will for us, and we learn how to make right choices. Prayer. Father, thank you for the care you took in giving me all I need to live a successful life. I want to be all you created me to be. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, amen, amen. Semper, baby.
God, I just really thank you for God and Jesus. I just really thank you for everything you do. Thank you for being with us. And thank you for making this day a beautiful day and just keep being amazing and awesome. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen, amen.
Feel my head.
You hot, baby? It's not too bad, but a little good. Just a little, maybe not really, I don't feel like you're that warm, it's just you feel normal warm. Yeah, but you're not hot. Feel my head. That's how you feel, baby.